Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 24 hours in Mali, the aerial bombardment and reconnaissance operation continues. First of all, we go to the Nara region, where the Malian armed forces and the Russian African Corps discovered a new staging point very close to the border of Mauritania, because Nara is a border region to Mauritania. And the Malians assessed their rules of engagement, and the best decision was to baptize this element. According to information that we got, after this airstrike, later on the locals heard loud bells ringing and they discovered that helicopters were hovering around the region. Now, what do I think? I do believe that this was one of the operations where the air vectors of the Malian armed forces, the drones, possibly the Akinchi type that has offensive capability with ISR, discovered the terrorists, and they had to act very fast, which was to baptize the element. Because when you move out without your motorcycle, how far can you go? Where is the medical aid to cure the wounds from the shrapnel injuries going to come from? And a situation where civilians started hearing loud bells and the sound of helicopters moving around the Nara region later on. Does that mean that the helicopters came in to give aerial support of extreme firepower? So this is just what the Malians achieved in the Nara region, and this means that Mali has not left the Mauritanian border just to be lacking, because this has been the points where extremists have been able to move capabilities in to Mali. And most of the journalists, Al Arabiya and the rest that have entered Mali, most of these individuals have entered through the Mauritanian borders. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point we cannot deny the fact that Mali has a serious problem when it comes to the neighbor that Mali has been working with, most especially with the CIMAC, which is an intelligence gathering community where Algeria, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, they were supposed to share intelligence to combat insecurity. But with this grade of movement, and if you look at the surface area, if you look at the square kilometer between Mali and Mauritania, is vast, and the Malians just did a fantastic job by stopping the enemies. The Malian armed forces and the allied Russian African Corps were able to spot another new camp of the JNIM, most especially the ones from the Katiba Mansina, because they were identified to have the green turban after the combat mission and the situational report from a ground incursion after the area bombardment of this camp. The Malian armed forces discovered that this was a new camp, and they completely devastated the camp. The Malian Armed Forces and the Russian African Corps, they got an intel that these elements were present in this region and they were there for a routine collection of the GZ attacks. And the Malian Armed Forces and the Russian African Corps sent a reconnaissance operation to confirm this intelligence. The enemy did not travel too long before they were baptized by the Malian Armed Forces and the Russian African Corps. And after they were knocked down, you could see the green turban from the receipts right here. So those are the Katiba Masina. These people, their main staging point is the northern part of Benin. Their staging point is the northern region of Ivory Coast. After the operation in the Segu region, the Malian Armed Forces were able to break the siege of Diafarabe. This siege was now broken easily, but the Malian Armed Forces were able to prevail over the JNI after the complete bombardment of the enemies in the Diafarabe region. Humanitarian supplies have reached the locals in this region. This extremist group, they love poverty because with poverty they can always get cheap labor, they can always enforce their authorities, They don't like civilization. They don't like development because development is a threat to their activities. But in a situation where the landscape of the Malian counterterrorism activities is changing, where the parallel logistic of the enemy is being destroyed and the news is getting tighter on the enemy, what do you think the next strategy of the funders of these enemies will be? How will they intervene? Because if the parallel logistic network is affected, their own interest is equally affected, because the money that is being generated from the parallel logistic network is being sent to them. And now that the Malians is beginning to gradually and systematically cut out the logistic supply channels of this element, which is going to further boost their military capability, I mean in terms of supplies of weapons. Because if they don't control the gold mine, they don't take the taxes, like they don't operate in the capacity they used to operate before, how long do you think they can continue to fight like this? So ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to what the wife of the former president of Chad had to say about the destabilization in Mali. Let's do it.
When France launched its operation to save Bamako, they occupied a territory in northern Mali. But this territory is vast. It's huge, and it needs people who know these desert areas a bit, who can move around in them. They made deals with the Tuaregs. Their targets are the Ansar al-Din jihadists, who have a different worldview from theirs, and so they have to be eliminated. But the Tuaregs say, no, we can make deals, we'll let you be, we'll play along, but there's no way we're going to fire a bullet at these people. They're all mixed together. They have connections. So the Tuaregs say, no, we're not going to fight against Ansar al-Din, but then you'll have to find someone else. Either we get our hands dirty ourselves, but then the French will take casualties, and the French people won't accept that. So the popularity ratings of our French politicians will drop. What do? We need help. We need people who know the terrain. So we call on Idriss Déby. It's not Mali that calls Idriss Déby, it's France. That's very important.
Maybe he has the experience.
Yes, yeah, no, but okay, I agree. There's no problem. So Idriss Déby arrives. He leaves Chad, the Chadian army leaves Chad. Through the desert they arrive. They arrive in the Kidal area and they settle in. They don't deal with the Malian authorities. They deal with the French general staff, and so people settle in. But what do we see right away? What is it? Today in Mali, people are crying. What are they saying? They say, it's a partition, a splitting up of our country. People have blocked northern Mali. For several years, even the Malian prime minister couldn't go to Mali. No one could go. People had blocked it. Chad also helped to block it. So what is Idriss Déby doing there? Idriss Déby is helping to implement a policy of partitioning Mali. It's unfortunate, but that's how it is. That's what he's doing, Idriss Déby. He comes in support of a policy that aims to organize a partition of Mali. Is that Pan-Africanism? No, that's betraying the Malians. And you know that the Malians understood this very well from the start. When the first Chadian casualties occurred, and another very important point, what happened to the Chadian soldiers wounded in the war in Mali? We weren't even able to bring them to Bamako to treat them in Malian hospitals. No, they were taken all the way to Niger. We used Transal flights to Niger, where the French had set up a field hospital to treat the wounded Chadians who were in Kidal, because the Malians were so angry about this collaboration by an African country to organize the partition of their own country. The first Chadian casualties were brought back to Chad. There was no Malian political authority present. No one from the authorities came. People in Chad didn't understand the insidious side of the Chadian intervention in Mali. People just didn't get it. So they started to show respect and say, wait a minute, are our children going to die in Mali? The Malians, can't they even offer their condolences to the Chadian people? What is that supposed to mean to me? People started to shout then.
Initially, it played into France's hands.
Not just a little, but from A to Z and just waiting. Another thing is that when he spoke up, and this discontent, if we can call it that, from Idriss Déby was shared with France, and what did France say to the Malian president? listen, this can't go on like this. Idriss Déby is here with us and everything, and now you absolutely have to show him your gratitude. You have to support him. And then suddenly we even had singers who sang about Idriss Déby. Another thing as well, which is very important, is that when you see Idriss Déby leaving Chad and coming to Mali, what does he do? He officially announces, the Prime Minister announces a withdrawal of funding of 90 billion CFA francs to finance his operation in Mali. So here is a country that is not directly threatened by terrorism and yet takes 90 billion from its treasury to go and fund a program, a policy of partitioning our African country. But meanwhile in Chad, people lack everything. They lack water. There is no electricity and there is a shortage of healthcare. People rush to Cameroon for treatment. They go to Sudan. They use any means they can. There is no healthcare in Chad. Entire regions are impoverished, and yet you have this guy taking out 90 billion just to please France. You see how this France-Africa machine is capable of doing absolutely incredible things. And how can a leadership ruin a country, destroy it, while being presented as someone who... Another very important thing in the fight against terrorism, there is also another point. Why? In fact, the Chadian army is stationed everywhere. Why? You know, there isn't really a war, because if there were, it's been 11 years. People, they know how to wage war. They'll burn everything, everyone, but there wasn't any. Even the Chadians who were on the front lines said that the first shock was the people who were hiding in the caves. Once those people were dealt with after the destruction they saw, it was over. There was nothing left. But
there are still terrorist attacks.
Yes, there are some, but that doesn't justify it. I don't know. Today there are 5,000 Chadians. If you look at the other contingents, we're at almost 20,000 men. But can you tell me how many terrorists are there? Where are they? How many are there? The other day we saw some unbelievable images. We saw guys with brand new motorcycles. They're all on motorcycles, the people from Mujau. They're all wearing turbans. Each one has a Kalashnikov. They're two per motorcycle. The guy in the back has a Kalashnikov, a trunk. So they drive through the villages and shoot at people. But where do the motorcycles come from? How is it that there are 100 brand new motorcycles all the same make? Where did they get the fuel? How is it that African countries can't handle this kind of problem? You take a helicopter, you fly around. Where are the locations that supply them with fuel, and who gave them these brand new motorcycles? How did they get through? So you can clearly see that still when you look at the resources being deployed, tanks, armored vehicles, French and Dutch soldiers, all that, satellite capabilities, everything. But when you look at it, they can't even tell us the jihadists have this many men, they control this area, their leader is so-and-so, they have this many fighters, they have armored vehicles, they have cannons. No. What we're told is there are guys just riding around on motorcycles like that, but helicopters could stop them quickly. So you can clearly see that the insidious thing is that in reality there isn't really a war in the true sense. But you have to control this area. There are small incursions, you have to control it. You have to stay. But since it's such a burden, we can't control it ourselves. It's heavy because after a while, now you, the Africans, we're fed up. Now it's up to you to pay for it. How long are you going to keep paying for this? I have no idea, but that's how it is. Another insidious thing which is very important in the fact that we want... I'll give an example regarding Cameroon and Boko Haram. Very important.
And there's a little bit of discord among the internal collaborators and funders of this extremism in the Sahel.
Even as I am standing here speaking to you right now, significant and violent tensions have suddenly erupted between the group of terrorists under the direct leadership of Yada Gali and the forces of the CFR, which are currently under the command of Imam Dikou. The terrorist organization, the FLA Jenim Alliance, was tasked with destabilizing the country militarily. The CFR was responsible for provoking a popular uprising in Bamako to facilitate the fall of the regime. The terrorists carried out their actions, but the CFR was not able to provoke a popular uprising in Bamako. This provoked the anger of Algiers and of Yada Gali. They are now accusing each other. What went wrong? Why couldn't you play your part? That is the current situation. This was largely because the Malian National Intelligence Services remained incredibly vigilant and highly professional. They successfully tracked down and arrested most of the key figures involved in the plot. From civil society and the political class in Bamako. From the very day of the April 25th attacks, certain leaders from civil society and politics were arrested, including some imams. It was these people who, amid the general confusion and the disinformation campaign conducted both inside and outside, were supposed to provoke a popular uprising in Bamako. Unfortunately, they were not able to succeed.
The last group of civilians are beginning to leave Kidal. We don't know the reason why they are leaving Kidal, but based on reports, they are now evacuating the region very fast. You can kindly give us your opinion on what you think the Malians should do the moment the remaining civilians in Kidal leave the region. What do you think the Malians should do about the region? Do you think the Malians should simply move in and confront the jihadists in a ground battle, or do you think they should just use the superior area power to befuddle the enemy in the Kidal region? You can kindly give us your opinion on what you think. It's your boy 7200 signing out. Enough said, but before I go, thank you for watching and God bless you.
We will fight this battle with our president, with our heads held high, with the Malian army, with our heads held high until the end of this war against these so-called terror, against these hypocrites who call themselves terror Tuaregs. I don't know what else. It's false. It's all lies. They are finished. They are people whom the whites themselves have analyzed, have studied grammatically, have sent to school, have studied them. They know how to use their brains. We can't use our brains like that. We can't use our brains like that. We did agriculture, livestock farming, and fishing. That's what we know. So really, what I want to say to my African brothers and sisters is to truly support Mali. Mali needs support. Whatever support you give to Mali, I thank you for that. Whatever support you are currently giving to my country, Mali, I support you for that, wallah. Because for us too, the support we can really give our country right now is to speak out. Because we can't take up arms, we haven't done, any training, we haven't done karate, we haven't done weapons training, so we have to speak up, to raise awareness, to help people understand. That's how I can help my country, Mali. There are others too who can help me, who are abroad, who are inside the country, who are all over Africa, who can also help me do the same thing as I am doing. I'm speaking to my Tuareg sisters and brothers from Mali who are there, who are currently in Mali, who live in Western countries. Every time you go live, speak up, explain yourselves. Make these people understand that we, the Malian Tuaregs, have never been with those terror. And we will never be with those terror, because those who are working for the country, for the nation, that's something else. But we're telling you, we guarantee you one thing. As long as President Assimi Goïta takes the lead, claims, I swear, inshallah or yahla, I'm not speaking in the name of Allah, but inshallah or yahla, I claim it, I call for it. Things will work out in Mali. It is this new Mali that will be free. It is this Mali of today that will be free, wallah al-azim. Billah, it will be free. Because the way he is doing this, wallah, only God can support him, only God can truly help him succeed. But I know very well that as long as this president remains in power, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing now, wallah, it will be a new Mali for us. it will be a stable Mali for tomorrow. Maybe we won't be here tomorrow to tell you about it. Maybe we'll be gone, but at least our children of tomorrow will grow up in peace. They will move about in peace. They will no longer be afraid to travel in their own country.
Do well to hit the like, share, and subscribe button before you go. If not, Andre Dukra.